Thank you. All right. You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. In the interest of those people who are behind, we will get started.
Thank you.
My name is Carmel Angelo. I'm Mendocino County CEO, and we'd like to do introductions. I think we'll go this way.
Right now?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
My name is Anna Perna. I am a cultivator, but in the future I'd like to have a topical salve business. I'm interested in stuff around manufacturing. Also interested in possibilities around tourism and Airbnb and hip camp rental on cannabis farms, and if that's a possibility.
Thank you. My name's Corinne Powell, and I am currently a cultivator, and I too am particularly interested in the development of the micro-business license pertaining to our specific Mendocino type farmers and tourism as it develops. And I'm a devoted advocate to these regulatory processes.
Julia Carrera and Associates, the longest standing certified third-party inspector in Mendocino County.
Karen Byers, Mendocino Cannabis Research, and I'm here and particularly interested on seeing that now that AB 2020 has passed, that Mendocino is prepared for cannabis events in non-fairground venues. I really want you to participate in that process.
Hannah Nelson, I'm an attorney and policy geek regarding cannabis issues, and I'm particularly interested in making sure that not just micro-business but other non-cultivation license-type activities are troubleshot? That sounds weird. I see a number of logistical issues that it would be probably helpful for us to develop policies to recommend to the Board of Supervisors or for staff to internally negotiate.
My name is George Hedge. I'm the uncle of the cultivator, and I do everything that she does do in terms of cultivation. So sort of a logical progression as she built her farm and her business. So basically the whole rubric of micro-business is incredibly important to me. There's some other aspects.
Dan Brack, I represent White Label Manufacturing. We're an extract company here in Andy Bayowski. I live in Willett and interested in non-cultivation business models that support cultivators.
Tracy Fowler, I'm a cultivator, environmentalist, a real estate agent, and a Mendocino promoter on all levels, and just here to figure some things out with y'all so that we can have a solid winter.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Karinder Grewal. I'm the new County Ag Commissioner, and just want to assure you, Cannabis Program staff is here to help us with and do whatever it takes to help you with this program. Always and will be number one priority is customer service. That's why we are here. Every day I walk in my office, I remember I'm getting paid with your tax dollars. So I am here to help assist all of you. Thank you.
Jay Brown, I'm interested in micro-business license.
Lisa Yuragiacha, I'm CEO of Mendocino Innovations for Quality of Mendocino integrating and focusing on development of my own business, as well as working with everyone else to develop as many different types of cannabis industry in Mendocino as possible to profit Mendocino for a stronger and brighter future.
My name is Matt Buttrick. I work with a group called The Drone. We're local Mendocino cannabis brand, and I'm here because I'm most like we're concerned, but I want to make sure that we can have the facilities needed to match the cultivations out there. The cultivators, we need a good community. It's a bit of a problem.
My name is Carlos Leda. I live in Mendocino. I also work with The Drone and help.
My name is Jude Tillman. I have a retail and distribution license on the coast. I'm very much interested in coastal zone issues and the microbusiness license. I also serve on the board of the Mendocino Cannabis Industry Association, we're very concerned with economic development and tourism, especially on that coast road that we know has so many tourists on it. We want to open that up.
My name is Siobhan Holm. I'm the program administrator for Cannabis. I work with Dr. Bramall in the Department of Agriculture in Mendocino County.
Mary Lynn Times, I'm the chief planner in the county planning and department, and my last
You lucky girl.
I am.
Hello, my name is Brent Schultz. I'm the new Planning and Building Services Director.
This is your first meeting.
I enjoyed the meeting before this, hearing about the issues and problems. I like your writing. I love puzzles and problems and how to make things go more smoothly. I'm here, like our rangers, to work together with all of you and all the agencies that are involved in this process. I'm just amazed how many people touch this business. And I want to help you through the process. I want to hear your problems. Let's get together. I've already talked to you last meeting. I want to understand from your side what it's like to go through our process. And then working together, we can make this a lot better and a lot smoother.
My name is Stuart Marcus. Mike and I have a retail in Mendocino County, ranch. I have a background in county tourism. I'm the former chairman of the County Tourism Commission. I've found our county business marketing and vision of the things in Cannabis. And we also have applied for cultivation licenses. I'm very interested in diversification and boutique locations to support county tourism. I'm also a member with Jude from Mendocino Cannabis Industry Association, and look forward to developing and diversification so that people can balance what they're doing.
My name's Shai Gordon. I work for the Mendocino County Treasurer Tax Collector, and I'm also here just to be a part of the team and to help where I can.
Hi, I'm Shelby Losey, and I also work for the Treasurer Tax Collector.
I'm Amanda Walter. I'm an administrative assistant with the Executive Office.
Sarah Cat, I'm an analyst with the Executive Office and work on a lot of the local cannabis policy.
In the back. If you could just introduce yourself, please.
I'm Ray, dispensary owner in Fort Bragg.
Chris Garlington, property owner in Boondle.
I'm James Fire. I'm another policy as well.
Oh, okay. Hey, welcome. And on the phone, who's on the phone?
Hi, this is Chris. Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, this is Chris Gurr. I'm a cultivator and interested in learning about other business opportunities outside of cultivation and being involved in the direction of Mendocino County.
Okay. Is there anyone else on the phone?
Yeah, this is Amanda Ryman from Flocana. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great.
And my name is Robert Delsman, and on behalf of others who are owners of land currently zoned RL 160, that is rangeland minimum 160 acres, we'd like to expand cannabis uses as much as possible on that zoned land.
Okay. Anyone else on the phone? Okay, so I will ask that when you speak loudly so that the people on the phone can hear you. I envision that we're going to have a little bit of a problem here because the room is as big as it is, and we don't have these front one, two. Okay, well, I hope they work then. Okay, all right. So this is our first non-cultivation meeting, and I want to thank everyone for two reasons. One, that you're here today. Thank you for that. And two, that you keep us on track. We have a lot of competing priorities, and I tend to move over to fire as much as I can. So it's nice to be be back here for this first meeting on non-cultivation. I have to leave about 10 to 5, but Sarah will actually be facilitating the meeting, and she'll take over here shortly. So I need to just go over the ground rules with you, and so I don't really need to read these to you. I hope that you all picked up a copy in the back, and we'd like to stick with these ground rules, mainly so that we can just have a productive meeting and we can move quickly through the issues. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Sarah Duquette.
Hello, everyone. So on the back, you'll have an agenda. If you haven't picked it up, that's there, the guidelines. But most importantly, raise your hand if you've read either ordinances for facilities. Okay, that's good. So if you don't have a copy or you want a copy, it is in the back as well as on our Muni code. But I want to make sure everyone gets the copy. And I want to give you a little background of why we're here today. So when the working group started back in 2017, there was a list of priorities of working groups that they wanted to do. We started with the first 4, and now we've gotten to this point. And in August, the Board of Supervisors approved starting a non-cultivation working group. We had a cannabis update in September where we got additional direction, and the direction for this working group is to review the cannabis facilities ordinance. So we have the business license section and the zoning section, and this group to come up with recommendations for ordinance amendments to be presented to the board. So that's kind of the goal of this group. The first item on the agenda is kind of for us to begin a conversation of what we want to accomplish and how do we want to organize to make these recommendations. So I want to first start with what do we want to accomplish. I know we said a little bit about ordinance amendments, but I kind of want to open it up so we can kind of lay the groundwork for expectations for the working group. Anna.
Yeah, I have a couple of issues that I would love to see us address and then potentially make recommendations to the board, or if staff informs us that it's policies that could be implemented internally without going to the board, then proceed on that matter. One has to do with the timing of applications for non-cultivation licenses and building permits. Unlike cultivation, which you can get a compliance plan for if your buildings are not appropriately permitted or the use is not matching the building permit type. Currently, there's no procedure for that to happen on non-cultivation business license type, and I understand why. But I think there's a little bit of an issue in terms of chicken and egg with respect to people having to invest money before they know whether or not something will come to fruition. So if they have to have the full building approved before they can even be considered on the other facets of the business license, then that creates a challenge in terms of resources. So that's just a topic that I'd like to see us discuss. Another one has to do with going through item by item and aligning our local ordinance with the state language a little bit better. Again, this dovetails into what I said in the last meeting, but perhaps through the legislative platform, perhaps through this working group recommendations to the board, dealing with issues that are especially affected by Mendocino, Mendocino County is especially affected by, but that are really dealt with at higher state levels, such as the state building codes or state other rules or zoning codes or whatever, because I think that there may be a category of items that we all have the will to be creative and try to address, but that are constrained by other state agencies or rules. And I think it's worth us looking into what those are and whether or not we need to do an extra level of effort to help move the needle in those areas as well.
So is there a way the group envisions or would like to start identifying issues to tackle? I know in other groups, like state requirements, at one point we put together like a list of things and then prioritize them. How does this group want to go about kind of creating those items to address? Obviously, there's probably many items that we may group may want to prioritize them. So is there any feedback or ideas of how you want to go about actually identifying issues you'd like to tackle?
I would like to say that probably brainstorming, just issues, going around the table, bringing them up, and then trying to classify them a way to do it.
And on that note, I would support that as well, and I did have a further list, but I can hold off to go around, but I do have a list of things, topics.
Did you bring a written list
I did
that we
not.
could make copies for the group?
In my daily list, sorry.
Karen, what's not like
No, I just really, like I said, with my focus is I want to make sure that we really have a robust cannabis tourism opportunity that would include cannabis events. And so we now have direction from the state on, what we can do as far as other venues. And that opportunity with the state opens up on January 1st, 2019. And I'd like to see that we fall in alignment with that because of timelines that have to do with the state. Like if I were to file January 1st, I have to already have the county's approval on my venue. We've already identified in the previous meeting my venue is approved, or most likely we'll be able to move forward, but I've not only ever cared about myself. So I want to make sure we have a process.
So do we want to go around the room and everyone have a chance to kind of say some of their big issues? Or just maybe one or two? One or two? Always stick to two, your big two issues. And just another thought to think about is now this ordinance is broken up by license type, and I know some of you are really just concerned about microbusiness or maybe very concerned about manufacturing. Just kind of think in the back of your mind how you may want to tackle certain types of license types, or if you want to address it as a group. This is a fairly big working group compared to some of the others which are smaller. Just kind of think about that. But we can, if you'd like, start everyone kind of say their biggest two top priorities that they'd like to see addressed. If you think not, can we get a thumbs up so people are okay with that? Sure. Can we have three? I'll give you three, but keep the work. Just okay, let's keep it to people. And I'm going to go and start the other side of the room. And I'm going to start with Jude. I'm going to say, because that way you're not last, your first time.
So what I can, we get two.
I think you get three. Three. Are we doing three?
Yeah.
I'll just do three as long as we keep it.
Okay, so there's a few things.
Can you record this with the motion board? We're going to try. You can keep going. I'm just asking her to. Oh, there we go. Great. Thank you, Amanda.
I'll probably bring up a word text too. It doesn't let you do it. There we go. Okay, you're up.
Okay, but this is relatively small. She was 52 days.
Government.
Inconsistencies with state language. So the microbusiness definition in the state is general cannabis cultivation, distribution, retail, etc. Whereas in the county it's listed as adult use.
What's changed?
Yeah, we've got them given that an old copy back there.
It's not the updated one. It's changed, right? It might not have been. Oh, it's probably not.
About that. Okay.
There's probably a delay in Unicode because we only do it 4 times a year. Problem solved. Sorry.
Bingo. Manufacturing level 1. The state language includes ethanol, and it's not included in the definition in Chapter 6.
And I raised that issue with that, obviously.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened there. So is that a mistake too? Is that already changed? So
No, we never put in.
Okay, so that's something that's still have to be fixed. I remember most of them.
But we talked a lot about it.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it. I don't know what happened with it. So then the question of the zoning codes and having to require for distribution and manufacturing the use permits when we've got zoning plans and limited permits. I mean, and processing, that was, okay, let me just skip that. Let me just go to processing. Yeah.
You don't want zoning codes up there?
Yeah, we do. Processing to be, it's one of the most benign things in the whole raft of things we do with cannabis and commercial cannabis is very benign. It doesn't hurt anybody, it doesn't stink, it's not a bad thing. So we should make it a lot easier. It's right now restricted too far in terms of what zones are in and what you have to do, what you have to get for it. So processing should be not just tied to cultivation. In fact, it's designated to be like other than cultivation. It should be tied to retail, to microbusiness, to distribution.
Processing and zoning code.
Yeah. Just loosen it up and processing, I think, could be very easily tucked into those other activities, distribution, retail, all of that. I'll just leave it for now. Okay. You got anything? Just add a note to processing.
Okay.
My name is Cultivation, as we're in point down. That's pretty much on a lot of cultivation. To deal with the facilities that we need to go process and distribute and manufacture, there's a lot less of that in the rural areas. And then to echo what you said, I think that we should look at distribution and processing. And I think processing is just look at it. We take huge plants outdoors, we bring them to a facility, we hang them whole, and it's this huge process. And that is one way of processing cannabis in the county. But, for example, if one has a distribution license and you want to take in cannabis that's already been dried, which is a really common thing out here, we can take that in. We don't have the ability to make pre-rolls or do things like that at a distribution company or distribution hub. So it doesn't make sense to have a whole other facility and security and all these other things if you want to take trim that you've gotten from grading products and just no pre-rolls. So just to look at what processing is and not making it so difficult and taking away, there's a lot of overlap between the distribution process.
Are you talking about, not about cultivation, not processing, just for
distribution and just for standalone processing facility. Like right now, cultivation has the ability to roll their own pre-rolls, right? But that is not, and I could talk forever about this, but that's not the most effective way in the chain as far as the process goes. It's better to have that at the distribution center for a lot of reasons, because when you can test it at that point, you want to take the time to process a whole bunch of material before it's tested. Because it can't be tested until the distribution. It makes sense for a lot of processing to happen with distribution. So you have to have a separate facility when you're constantly moving things around the county.
But they can be at the same location.
tested again.
Yeah, it has to be tested
We have actually multiple licenses issued for processing distribution at the city center.
With regards to the testing, again, we work with small shop farmers, and that can be considered in certain.
We have no rules about testing.
But we're not asking for regular testing, we're asking for a process that would avoid double testing if possible.
That process has already been solved, now it's building up this timeline. Distribution.
Yeah, I guess when it's done, you can have a processing license at another facility, but it would be nice if the distribution license that you had allowed you to roll a pre-roll, rather than having to get a completely separate license.
That you're going to also have to pick up with the state then.
Yeah.
But it can be pre-rolled.
That's a no, that's manufacturing. So you can get a state processing license through CDFA. ECC deals with microbusiness. We did make public comment asking that they consider allowing processing to be one of the qualifying activities, but we're waiting to hear the response, and I'm not holding my breath. Regardless, though, even if the county were to do something, it wouldn't work at the state level at this moment until they vote.
So I guess the code goes on.
So we have consultants that started working on this. Let's process this one.
I got a little confused there, Hannah. Can we just back up one step? So, I'm a manufacturer. I have a micro-business license, so I can process.
Sorry, this is a little off topic, but or if you want, I can answer.
Can you touch base later? Do you have anything else? Do you have?
No, I'm good.
How about we go to the back people, and then we'll come back up. Yes, Hannah?
I'd love to
I don't remember his name.
add on to the earlier suggestion that the agree to expand commercial land use. I'd like to suggest we perhaps revisit table 1 in chapter 20 and say my sense of it.
Expand rangeland and address the zoning table. Table 1. Zoning table 1. In events. Events pathway. And you missed the last one, but we did briefly touch, we have an older ordinance for events that we're currently starting the process to revise, so for cannabis and other events. But, so, do you have, there's someone hiding there.
I just want to reiterate something that Hannah was saying about the timing of licenses, especially for indoor facilities, where we have to obtain the second occupancy. We can't get anything until we've gotten that, which includes a huge investment in renovating buildings.
The timing of license with building requirements. Back up to the, well, did I miss anyone in the back? Nope.
I have a question, and my question is, so if there's somebody in a coastal zone who's been cultivating since 2009, and they're trying to sell him some property, he can't get his previous cultivation license.
Well, these ordinances don't address cultivation.
Okay, so that's
So this is just cannabis facilities.
Okay, so then I'll just stick with my rangeland expansion. I'll kind of be the environmentalist in the room, just questioning. I think it's in alignment with our CEQA, and how does that roll down? Because I think it's because we did it this way, we're then fulfilling our CEQA.
Rangeland expansion for things like micro-business and facilities.
For cultivation, right?
Well, that's also different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay. But I'm assuming yes for rangeland expansion for other activities.
Okay. There you go.
I'm curious about the economics of starting and operating non-cultivation businesses relative to other jurisdictions. Counties and cities. Why would you want to invest $2 million in these businesses in Mendocino County relative to cities where it's for, County, Humboldt?
He wouldn't right now.
Non-cultivation businesses, not micro-businesses?
Well, it's considered non-cultivation.
So, but that's encompassing all of
I'm saying yes.
I don't think so.
That's my 1, 2, and 3.
I'd just like to circle back on the ethanol. I'd like to maybe get a better, clear definition from the state and the county. Is ethanol actually hazardous or not? Because I believe in Cal OSHA, it's kind of convoluted. That's all I have.
I don't really have anything to add other than the whole business of economics and land cultivation businesses is of interest, because I think that costs should be a lot more explicit than they are. And I think that they should somehow be lined up with the state. The state, for example, is proposing $10,000 for micro-business license as well as and you had where
$60 for, well, depends if you need building permit, administrative permit. Business license is
60. Oh, please.
228.
228 with the
228. Get in the, and that's separate from obviously administrative permits or building permits you may get.
My hit list is already, I have more than that, already on the line. I'm just,
Yield my hit list.
okay, there we go. My state licenses and my local licenses introduce a small or cottage level processing license, and actually that's split into two processing license. One would be just for the individual who has maybe another site, so their processing is for themselves but includes multiple sites. And then the second would be for others but is limited to a certain amount. I don't know whether it's a dollar amount or a number of pounds or whatever. So in other words, having a smaller processing tier, and this is something that we suggested at the state level, but I believe that if we lead the way and provide an example, it's possible that the state would follow. Likewise, with other micro businesses, having a cottage level micro business, again, at the local level, it's not that the fees are that excessive, but it's just having the concept of different tiers introduced. Other things are tasting rooms and having the participation of environmental health in that discussion, economic development and how we are going to proceed with going forward, not just in our ordinances, but also in our economic development policy, business parks.
How do you get
You yielded me, and that's it. And I'm echoing the other things that are on there.
Karen, I think you have events, right? Yeah, I already have events up there. So I would like to include a tiered level with that. And then I'm just never clear with Mendocino's policy, so if I missed a meeting and we've covered this, but are we doing M&A, or are we doing both? Are we going to do an alignment with like what the state's doing, where they're blending both license types? I think we need some real clarity on that, or I missed that meeting. Anyway, so that, and then, let's see, there's the S license type that I've not seen us really move on, and that's the shared space license type. I would like to have that established so that our medicine makers can start sharing space to create what they need to. And then just, I've always had a voice on on-site consumption or tasting rooms.
All right. Julia? Yes. Economic development is my main concern, and that's across the board, cultivation also. We don't have an economic development department at the moment, even though we've had one in the past. And economic development, I think, is key to all these non-cultivation licenses. How, and what Andy's talking about, how do we bring people to Mendocino County that aren't cultivating to provide processing centers, distribution, manufacturing? Right now, manufacturing is cheaper in Mendocino County than it is anywhere else. But, my second point, there are very few commercial and industrial parcels in Mendocino County. So there's no way for anybody to do it. So how do we allow more of non-business licenses to incorporate more economic development when we don't have the parcels to do it on? No, I want to do it too. Why does that the essence?
I couldn't support the comments more about creating what would be a business-friendly environment in Mendocino for all things cannabis. Because we blew it with the wineries, everybody knows that. You can't process here, they all go, grapes go elsewhere. We need to focus on supporting the established heritage here. That means manufacturing, processing, and it helps cultivators to have a local source to go to so that some distributor from Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, wherever the hell they're from, don't want to charge you $250 to drive up here to take the material. It's completely lopsided if we don't support the entire comprehensive industry. That's a big number one. Number two, and this one's really simpler, although nobody's getting on my bandwagon, I believe that the microbusiness license should not be tied to either the cottage or the home occupation structure. It should be a standalone license as it is at the state level. That's all.
And it's really important for the building and designing people to...
But they're gone. But they've heard it before.
They had a little bit of an emergency, that is out.
So I forgot to say this earlier, but I'm on the California Growers Association Cooperative Development Committee, and we've been talking a lot at those meetings about forming cultivator cooperatives, and then what licenses could those cooperatives then hold that would benefit all the farms. And one of the most important ones would be processing for trimming. And so if there's a way to like streamline that, because trimming has traditionally been done on the farm, but it's very expensive for the farmers to get the right commercial buildings. So having like a neighborhood commercial building that could take product from all the different farms in the area. So yeah, I guess processing, cooperative processing, and then with the canna-tourism and like an Airbnb scenario, I'm just not clear about like consuming on site. Like, would you need a micro business for that, or is it some like loophole that allows you to like have like a, I don't know what the proper term is, but like when you're like hosting people in like an Airbnb scenario, like I don't know if you need a license for that, but like would just having a cultivation license be enough for people to like sample product on site? And then with manufacturing, just recognizing, like I think people have said before, that there's limited places in the county where that is possible and allowed, and it's actually driving people out of the county. Like I know a topical business that's renting space in Cloverdale now because they couldn't find space in the county. So if there's ways to like open that up in some way.
Stuart, and then we'll go back. She passed earlier.
Okay. First, I'd like to see development of a clear pathway for diversified license, including a micro license, to support cannabis marketing and tourism development at appropriate facilities. This would include tasting room model with on-site consumption, retail direct sales, similar to a winery. Two, mentioned twice about development of RL, so I'd like to expand that to include all the resource lands, which include FL and TPZ, to utilize and support the natural environment for ecotourism and canna-tourism. And three, I would like to see development of a county cannabis business plan. I mostly hear about rules and regulations, but there's no real plan of how to market our products in a competitive. And I remember this from our grapes and our vineyards, why they kept complaining why our grapes keep going to other counties and other county bottles, and the possible development of the business improvement district.
A business improvement district for cannabis?
Correct. And just like I helped found the lodging business improvement district for lodging. I'm very familiar with the process. And I do believe that we're already paying every 3 months. We fill out our cannabis tax, which is almost identical to the transient occupancy tax form. And if we added a small amount, that's part of what the Mendocino Cannabis Industry Association is, to get some funding to help support the marketing and education for cannabis growers, to help market our product with a very similar model. So this would bring in money for the industry to actually help develop itself.
Thank you. I really support what Stuart just said. I would also like to prioritize the local cannabis, small farmers and business entrepreneurs that are interested in developing what are already their natural skill sets, and keep them in Mendocino. Keep their skills here, keep the products that they were making 5 years ago without a problem in marketing here, and benefiting Mendocino. So I'd like to see this part of the priority.
Robert, are you still on the line? I think I see him on. No? Hello?
Yes, I am on the line, but it's difficult to participate because of the telephone connection isn't perfect, and so I'd prefer just to review and contribute to a written list if we have one that will be circulated.
Okay. And then we had a new gentleman in the back. Lena, do you have any, we're talking about your 3 big priority issues for the non-cultivation. Amanda, are you still on?
Sorry, Robert.
Yeah.
There were 2 people on.
I think that's us.
Oh, okay.
Can I just throw out one more? I know, but with this bill that just passed that offers equity opportunities for high-impacted areas to be able to participate in cannabis, I think that should be thoroughly looked into as a possible granting opportunity. What was the number?
So, with that, what we can do for the next meeting is we can have this all typed up, brought back. The big question is, so we identified these, how do you want to tackle the issues? Do you want to break it up into ordinance amendments, other recommendations? How do you want to go through the list? I don't know if there's any feedbacks or comments of how you'd like to go through the process.
SB 1294. Yeah, and 1294 is the bill, the equity bill.
I'm going to suggest that perhaps we just either today or within the next few days do what we did with other working groups, prioritize, let's say, the top 3 or 4 issues to start with and work our way through those and then move on the list. I think that was kind of effective.
We could do something similar with a poll, and then maybe you want to have a goal of maybe how many you want to do per meeting. So you take the first 3, work through them, or the next ones, or if I can, and then
so maybe as a process suggestion, we could look at this group and see that some of them could be grouped together. In particular, the grant search could go in with the business plan development, and so we could come up with, minimize really what that looks like, and go from there.
We'll do right after.
So I'm concerned a little bit about information prior to this meeting, and now putting out to the group how we want to select issues of interest and concern. And you had responded to one of my emails to Kaz saying that the objective was to review the ordinance and recommend changes to the ordinance.
That is the main objective.
So if that is the main objective, I know many of our concerns are not actually included in the ordinance at the moment. So how shall we proceed with things that are outside the ordinance specifically?
Well, I think a couple things. One is that this is a list of issues that you want to cover and that we want to cover in this committee. I think that we have to go through the ordinance, and maybe part of the process of going through this list and prioritizing is determining anything that's in here that matches our non-cultivation ordinance. And so at some point, the problem we had with one of the working groups in the past was that the board wasn't prepared for the information that we were bringing forward, and so everything got stopped, squelched, whatever you want to say. So what we can do here is anything that is not pertinent to the existing ordinance, that we can do an update to the board so the board knows what we're working on, and get direction from them. We don't want to get caught in the same situation we were in before, and so there's ways to manage that. So does that answer your question, Corinne?
Well, it does, but then I think it begs the point that we do need to create our priorities list as a group, ASAP.
Yeah, that's what we just did.
So we just made a list.
Yeah, that's right.
So if we can have some kind of, what you called it, a survey or something that we all respond to pretty directly, and if we're having another opportunity to meet based on the response from the state regarding their new regulations, we might be able to at least agree at that meeting on the survey results as to where we are in ordinance versus new things to ask the board about. Maybe we can do that at the next meeting.
And if you'd like, we can probably, when we do the survey, break it out, if you want us to break it out.
Categorically.
Ordinance amendments and related issues.
Sure.
And then you can prioritize based on that. So then you have your priority list for the ordinance and your priority list for the other things, and they can kind of be on two
parallel
tracks.
courses.
Yeah. And she had her hand up first, and then I'll go.
So actually, just a couple of quick things here. It might even be the most important. I'm noticing that the term sunset is being used in this ordinance too, and I think that concept, that word needs to disappear from everything.
Everything.
Okay, so we're going to do something similar, either a Google survey, SurveyMonkey, prioritize based on this list. We'll have direct things that relate to ordinance amendments, and then ones that are related but not in the ordinance. Siobhan?
Well, it seems to me that if you just toss this out and everybody sort of prioritizes, then you just rearrange the deck chairs on the hand. I mean, it's kind of, because these are clumps of things, you know. So you've got zoning things, you've got economic development things, you've got business structuring and opening up for sectors to actually be able to express themselves in Mendocino in ways that they are able to in Humboldt and Sonoma that we can't do here. So there's like a way like on-site consumption and tasting rooms. That's obviously a part of cannatourism. Cannatourism is obviously a part of economic development. All of this is part of a cry that I've heard from several people around the room. Let's have a plan in Mendocino County that is a specific cannabis economic development plan. There's no strategy. This has been since 2014 sort of a scattershot approach. Well, let's see what the state does and we'll react to that. Let's see what the problems are as we try to get people to sign up for permits and we'll react to that. You know, it's like that. It seems to me that in a proactive and a positive way, economic development is an overarching thing that I think it runs through all of these issues. You can't make it in Mendocino County if you can't, for instance, have more flexibility on where you're processing. If you don't have more flexibility, the zoning is a big problem. Zoning right now is an obstacle to economic development for cannabis. So I think there's got to be a way. Well, that's fine. They can say what they want. But we're used to being honestly subjected to extensive problems, hurdles, and hoops to go through. So I'm just saying that I think if we took a few minutes and clump these into categories and then divide down into working groups. This is a huge group of people, and working groups that can sit down, look at the language of Chapter 6 and 20, look at the state regs, and sort of come up with proposals. That's just an idea.
Can
I add on?
Wait, Siobhan, and then we can go back.
I was going to suggest, that list has some very large things that need impacting, and they won't result in an immediate ordinance amendment. And it may behoove us to take some of the items that need major unpacking and put them in a different category when it comes to meeting the goal that Corinne is reminding us that the reason why we're here.
But wouldn't that just mean if you've got a big thing that you see isn't going to pass easily over, it's going to take a long time, it's taking a lot more hoops to get through in terms of county government, to break it down into smaller bites of the apple. Okay, what piece of that can we get now?
Well, I'm more just thinking, what is meant by economic development? That's just all of us deciding what a general definition could take quite some time. So that might not be a priority when thinking about how to amend the ordinance. And again, I'm just thinking about what our goal is, how long we have, and ultimately what we're going to put in front of the board.
County's already defined that. Yeah.
So I think the idea of breaking up potentially into smaller groups is wise. We have a very big group, and so having every single, let's say we prioritize, we're going to address expansion of zoning, and it's like 25 people, it's going to take a long time, whereas a subgroup could maybe discuss it and bring back recommendations to the full group to decide and take the board. So I think that's a good consideration. And I think there was a couple of things, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to distract me or diversion, but it would be helpful for me in figures like this to maybe, as a group, really state and define our goals. I think we all have them in our minds and we're referring to them, but just like you made this list, it would be, I find with other projects like this, it can be really helpful to keep going back to those goals, almost like a question. If our goal, and even though development is large and can feel vague, but if our goal is to preserve existing jobs and create new jobs in the cannabis industry, if our goal is to preserve cultural heritage of Mendocino County cannabis, and then we can ask ourselves those questions at each stage or in each breakout group as we create them. Like, are we meeting that? If we change this to this, does it directly result in the goal that we all agreed upon right at the beginning? And I know this almost feels too obvious, but I also think it wouldn't hurt to go around and really be clear about what those are. It becomes a question and answer process.
I think in general, I agree with the direction you're taking in terms of, but there have been goals stated for years by the Board of Supervisors. I mean, goals that we in the cannabis industry don't feel have produced the actions that would actually facilitate them. So helping the cannabis industry survive and thrive, helping our small farmers survive and thrive. I mean, those kinds of general goals have been stated, but we're not doing them. I think you're right in general that the reference point for every one of these issues has to be what's our overarching goal, and do we have unity that this is the kind of goals, these are the goals that Mendocino should be aiming towards, because we're falling behind the counties around us, and so that needs to be checked.
So you mean developing an action plan to address the goals once they've been identified and outlined?
I think it's a measuring stick against which these issues get evaluated, and we come up with language that meets the overarching goals that have already been stated in multiple documents from the county. By the Board of Supervisors, the point out from us, we all came here with a goal.
I think that's something we can do, because the charge of this group is to bring back recommendations for ordinance changes. So that has to be the product. I think it could be, if you want to set goals and saying all of the ordinance amendments that we want to recommend are going to help small farmers. That's something. But the mission in charge of this group from the Board of Supervisors is first and foremost recommendations for ordinance amendments. So I know we can get off track with economic development and all of this kind of stuff, and I think what Corinne said earlier about getting clarity and Carmen was saying, on those ones that don't necessarily directly relate to amending the ordinance, bringing that to the board for their blessing before moving ahead, but keeping in the front of our mind that we're here to Anna?
So I appreciate that keeping focus on the ordinance amendments, and then maybe what we could do is call this list and really just focus on those things, and then have the other list, as Carmel suggested, of recommendations that we ask the board to allow us to further explore and develop if they give us that authority to come back with more specific proposals in the non-ordinance changing issues. But I do think that we can call that list and sort the wheat from the chaff and just kind of go for it. With respect to people's individual goals, I think I normally honor that kind of process, and I think that it's usually helpful in this because we are so constrained by what the Board of Supervisors has told us we are allowed to do at this moment. I think that maybe having that in mind as something that we all want to prepare, that when we are charged, because I'm confident that they will allow us to explore those issues, that we are charged with those other issues, that we then come together with that as the first stated purpose of how we will.
I just wanted to think that if we were to just say something randomly, I would think that one of the most important things is this cottage micro business to bring to the table first, because that's so much representative of our small farmers, and there's the small cultivation and doing everything right there. And there's so many people moving here from the Bay, and they're all about buying cannabis properties, and I don't know if that's up to us too in the ordinance about how to go forward. I don't know if it's 2020, but it's just too big of a scale. But
There's no drop-off date for this ordinance.
okay.
For, you can't apply until it's open. Stuart?
I want to say, if we were to discuss a business improvement district, it would require an ordinance change. And I also think that there needs to be, even though it's a very general term, economic development or a business plan, there needs to start to be a focus on it or a perception from it, saying from a certain point of view, to start to look at how the rules and regulations don't integrate with each other. They don't really support the whole process of getting through the licensing and business development. And in general, we should have a focus of looking at it from another point of view. As we get past these rules and regulations, we start to need to think about where are we going with this. And so, given though, I do think that we could start to focus that approach down, was given some more thought and attention. I know that for myself personally, I'm trying to think, well, how am I going to develop my business that I don't even know if I'm getting a license? And I don't even know if this one's going to work, or that one's going to work, or is this rule going to match with this rule? There's not really a way of looking at it from a point of view of a business owner.
So, two options. Do we want to start prioritizing here in the room your number 1 and number 3 for the ordinance, or do you want to go forward with the survey?
Survey.
Raise your hand. Thumbs up for the survey. Okay, I feel like that's the majority. I don't know. So we can try to get that maybe in the next week or so to this group, and we'll break it out for ordinance and non-ordinance. And then at the next meeting, do we want to organize how we want to break this out, subgroups, like Jude suggested? Julia?
I raised my hand before you asked that question. Oh, I'm not answering your question. Sorry about that.
No, okay.
Do you want to wait?
No.
So here's, I was going to ask Carmel. Carmel, this group, for those of you in the room that haven't been on a working group before, we ran into an obstacle where I was one of the people, as was Corinne, as was Stuart, that put long, hard hours into creating a presentation that was actually quite phenomenal, and it got pulled. And so we don't want to recreate that as Carmel suggested. So Carmel, what can we do? Because what Stuart said is what I was saying. All of this is ordinance amendments. So even if it's not in the ordinance needs to be amended, so it is. So how do we actually get in here and say what we can do and what we can't do?
Well, I think we're doing it. I think you develop the list. Now we'll prioritize the list. And then, again, we talked about what the existing ordinance looks like. You have to go through that existing ordinance. Where is the overlap between this list and the existing ordinance? And then, as Sarah said, we developed the second list. So we have the ordinance, and then we have the additional items, and that we go to the board on, it's all the way over there. We can go to the board November 6th. In November. I don't know, November 6th is the full agenda. But when we do the cannabis update, Sarah can assist with that, and we can let the board know what we're doing. And they will say if there's something on that list that they don't want, because that's what we don't want. We don't want this group to put in all the work and then it gets squelched. So we'll avoid that.
Some of the ideas may be an ordinance amendment, but some of them are really policy-driven decisions that wouldn't necessarily be in an ordinance of how to get a license when you're talking about economic development and the policies of the county and pushing forward initiatives. Wouldn't necessarily be something you would build into code, but that would be something that the board would, essentially it would be policy direction.
You know, and definition changes and things that are included and not included, but relevant.
What I'm hearing, well, and it could be in this, but then there's a lot of stuff that's overarching and really addresses cannabis industry as a whole that wouldn't necessarily, but that's, I think, where we're kind of starting the process of what's this low-hanging fruit of if we change this definition in this ordinance, we're going to match the state and then not to do this, whereas, you know, we want a policy decision by the board about economic development and supporting particular activities.
Yes, we do.
So, and, you know, regarding economic development, we do have some activities occurring, and one of the actions that we're taking is November 6th, there will be a presentation to the board that will be on economic development. That will be West Company and EDFC, and I've asked them to get speakers from the public, and I've asked them to get at least 2 cannabis business owner speakers. So some of you might even be hearing from Marianne Petrello, I don't know. So, you know, that presentation on the 6th is to give the board a full picture, and some of regarding economic development in the county. And, you know, because we hear a lot, you know, some of you come into the boardroom every Tuesday, and what you talk about is the 3rd District and how the 3rd District is falling apart and that's due to cannabis. And so, so we're hoping that we can get, you know, a realtor and that we can get a picture of what really is happening in the community with cannabis, because we also have some other businesses in the community that are developing and that continue. So we want to show a full picture. So I say that because economic development is important, whether it's cannabis or whether it's just any part of the county. And we see cannabis as a big part of that. So that will be part of the presentation, and I would encourage you all to be there. It should be 1:30 to 3:30 on November 6th.
Great, Carl.
Thank you.
So what I hear you saying then is that really we need to do this process. And
Yeah.
as we do the process, that will weed itself out and we'll be able to determine what we can and what we can't.
Remember, we can't do anything but follow board direction.
Right.
But this is a working group that was directed by the board. So that's the best thing we can do. We can't go forward on October 16th because we don't have time. So I don't think we can go forward on October 16th. I don't think we can. Yeah. We've also talked about having, calling another board meeting that would be just cannabis. You know how we've done that in the past?
That would be great.
So we may, but you know, we're getting so close to the holidays, but we may do that. So there are ways to get this to the board that allows you to all keep doing the work with us that we're doing and get direction or approval from the board so that we're not just spinning our wheels.
Great.
Can I ask for kind of clarity on the 2 things that I've identified as the S license type and the events license type? Since it's not in the pre-existing facilities, you know, that they've asked us to review and get input, can we ask that to be put into our scope to add new license types?
Yeah, that would be an amendment.
Okay. I wanted some clarity on that.
Am I in the right meeting?
Jude and Andy.
This is another point of clarity. We're going to be dividing these up into two categories.
Yes.
We're going to prioritize them.
We'll prioritize first.
Yeah, you'll 2 categories and then you prioritize within the category.
Well, I'd like to suggest that, you know, calendar seems to be incredibly tedious, especially for those of us who've been around for a number of years. The time is not our friend. That's what we're saying. We can't plan. We can't get, you know, loans, investors. We can't we can't get our state, going into our state licenses, I mean, there's just a lot of things that are hanging us up in terms of long-term planning, especially zoning issues. So, is there any way that we can factor that into the prioritization of these issues?
Well, I think you should prioritize those issues, especially with ordinance amendment. And then the part that's not ordinance amendment, we're going to go the path of hopefully sometime in November getting them to bless that. But I think as a group, you should think about which one you want to tackle first. Because if there's hang-ups that are going to prevent you from getting licenses, that probably should come first.
Yeah.
So I think that's the conversation of when we come back at our next meeting in the first week in November, we have the priorities, and we need to decide which ones are you going to tackle first, how are you going to tackle it? Is it going to be as a group, subgroups? Because time is of the essence. Amy? I'll go over to you.
My question is about scope. So the use permit applications, do you consider that falling under ordinance, or is that totally separate?
The use permit application.
If you need to pursue a use permit in order to start a cannabis facility business, is that use permit application, are we considering that under the scope of the conversations around the ordinance?
Is there a requirement for it? Is there everything? If it's a requirement for it, I mean, we've already really considered it as part of the ordinance. Is the ordinance has been required? So if you want to change that, it would be an ordinance amendment.
Okay.
But are you talking about what the specific requirements of the use permit are? That would not be in this context. That is an issue for the planning commission.
And that is actually a case-by-case issue with regards to site and all the different agencies.
Sure. I'm talking more generally about the structure and the questions that are asked on the use permit application, and how those are potentially very cornering to a business.
So I think that would be something with the
Is
department.
whatever the ordinance requires, that may be a question that can be asked, or a question that can be in order to analyze the property and what's being done.
Right. I just want to know, will the use permit application, does that?
No, whether you need a use permit or AP, that would be the amendment, But if you're talking about how they determine questions.
Now, because we tweak the applications constantly, depending on what kind of information we need. So there may be something that, the question's not even on there, but it may be something depending on what you get us, we may need more information, so you may get more questions. So it just depends, it's a case-by-case basis.
If I could go
Yeah,
here,
she was, it sounds like what you just said, Sarah, is that by dividing these categories, if there are issues that are priorities that aren't necessarily in ordinance amendments, but could see a policy direction, we want to expedite them, identifying them as policy directions that would be the process to get those issues addressed more quickly and more efficiently. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think so. So we're separating it, ordinance amendment and the other issues. The other issues have to be blessed by the Board of Supervisors before we... Then once it's blessed, is a discussion with the group of, are some of those going to be higher priority than ordinance amendments? So then, but then if you do a structure like Jude mentioned of having, subgroups or subcommittees that can go into it, that might be more efficient, because if you have 25 people and like 10 things to do, it's going to take a long time.
Right. So on Annie's comment, it still says cannabis on these applications for administrative permit or use permit. And I thought that at the very top, because...
On the application, yes. It's because it's a separate application than our typical administrative permit.
But I thought in the building and working group, we solved this and nothing's going to have cannabis on it anymore.
When you apply for an administrative permit or a use permit, those are public documents.
Right, which is the problem.
We can't do that.
Can't we come up with a code?
Yeah, why does we have, are you talking about in traffic? No, on the form itself, the public document, it says cannabis.
Federal government won't move, it's hard to get a bank account right now.
Thanks. So if you could just come up with a code.
So what about when you have your tax permits, cannabis on that?
That's
Not
exactly.
It's not online.
Application
It's not online.
for an administrative permit or a use permit.
It's not online.
What do you mean it's not online?
Mary Lynn.
The issued ag permit.
I must be missing
Yeah.
the point.
So
But
the
if
ag,
you could come up with a code, I think that would.
No.
the ag permit isn't involved.
Application form.
The ag permit is not involved in any kind of banking or potential problem with banking, business, or insurance. The building department information is. And so when an application says cannabis on it.
So for a building permit, are we talking about?
No, the administrative permit and the use permit say cannabis on the application. And I thought we were going to remove
No,
that.
that's not, we talked about track it and being in charge, but we did not talk about the application form itself.
Okay.
Well, who here thinks that's an issue we should address? Oh, everyone in the room?
Well, so you have to show a blank application form to your banking industry? I mean, to you either, or whoever.
The insurance provider, right?
They're now even asking.
Wait.
Yes.
You have to show your application?
Yeah, they're now even asking for, when you purchase your home, the contractor's review of the facility itself and what the problems were and weren't. It's getting really bad out there.
And the business plan created to provide that.
It's going to take, I don't know what we're going to do about that because it's all public documents. And even though the application may not say cannabis, the questions are going to be cannabis.
No, the application does say cannabis.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. Even if it doesn't,
Yeah, but
the questions are still going to be.
they don't necessarily look at the questions. They look at the form and that they have them in the form. Documents. That's just the way it is.
The board requested.
So we will take this one under consideration. We're going to add this to the list. You will?
Thank you.
We can do it.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that was the issue. I had heard it was track it all along.
No.
Pulling up stuff everywhere.
Now, when you try to get a loan from a bank on a house,
It's getting really bad out there.
So problem solved with that.
Thank you very much.
but you
When your administrative permit comes.
She'll do it before she leaves.
There's always say cannabis somewhere on it.
The actual permit.
One at a time.
What stops the lender from not digging in? But you got your, we've issued an administrative permit or whatever, they dig in there and they go, hey, this is for cannabis.
Yeah.
But all these ones are fanning me.
No, I get what you're asking.
Right, I mean.
I get what you're asking, but time doesn't allow it. Time, right? You're not, they're, so when they're looking at these documents, they're looking at making sure that they have the document itself, and they don't necessarily go to each line on the document. So if it says cannabis on it, then they're going to go to each line on the document. If it doesn't, they're not going to. It's about time.
They look for code words to reject applications.
Okay, so we will take it off.
Thank you.
Administrative permit and use permit application.
Bless you. Thank you.
So, however, the permits will still have
They don't ask for the permit. They don't ask for the permit.
You can always do CN. Okay, let's getting back on track. Hannah had a comment, and then we're going to kind of close things up. Hannah?
Yes, so I would just like to clarify that one of the issues up there about the chicken and the egg and the timing really had to do with temporary licenses at the local level and other timing issues, which is a very time-sensitive issue.
Come on.
So when you guys are thinking about ranking these, I don't know if it was, I can't read that part, I'm sorry, but I don't know how it's phrased, but my issue about the chicken and the egg and building permits and whether or not you can get your license or a temporary license while you're building the building, blah, blah, blah. That really is a time-sensitive issue for people now, so I just wanted to make sure that it was phrased, I can't read.
Which one? We're putting it down. We're doing timing of local license, in parentheses, building permit, in conjunction with getting a state. Is that what you're saying? Like,
Actually, no, I'm talking about possibly, right, that.
you can't get the license issued from the local because you're waiting on the
Right,
building.
exactly. So the idea of having a temporary local for non-cannabis, for non-cultivation, sorry, and then how that dovetails into what you do for state.
Okay, so I'm going to phrase it as a temporary local license. Yeah. Temporary local license.
And we're talking facilities.
Yes.
Facilities.
So that,
You did work it out? Mm-hmm. Nice.
good job.
So, John,
Timing of temporary.
we can give you another round of applause.
You're gonna go out with honors in the campus.
But is that only on the planning side or on the building side too?
Yay. So do you want to go over that really quick?
Yeah.
I actually looked through it, and you gave me a temporary,
Just recently?
Yeah.
You the one just recently?
well, pretty recently, July.
No, that was
No,
white,
white label.
white label?
White label. White label?
Yeah.
So you're the one that we just talked about it with, so we got you guys cleared up? Yeah. So
how did
for
you figure it out?
everybody's benefit is.
We read the ordinance.
So that means that you do not need a building approved?
You need to have your building applications in, but they don't have to be issued or approved, final. They don't have to be final. Usually you have to have final occupancy for a facility. But if you have a temporary facility business license, there's wording, it's one little word in
And
there.
we're allowed to operate.
You can take that off. So I'm going to take that off?
Take it off.
Take it off. Take it off, the last one, local temporary license. Okay. So.
This is just amazing.
We're here to please. So, with that, we're going to put together a list, look for an email for us in the next week or so. We'll get it prioritized. We'll bring back this item to talk about how we're going to break out into work groups and tackle these at the next meeting. And we're going to try to get this on the agenda in November to talk about the policy directions we would like left. And Karen, real quick.
All right, so as we all know, that the non-emergency regulations are about to drop. I think that this is going to be a variable in some of our recommendations as well. So I'm throwing it out there. I don't have much else to say now. So we're all aware that that could change everything that we might do next week.
Many of you, you're doing both, so you'll have some insight when we come back to South Chester.
There you go.
Okay.
Congratulations, Mary Lynn, you successfully completed your working group tour of duty.
Give her a satellite phone so wherever she is.
It's like there. I was I just have to save that somewhere. I mean, can you email me that when you're done? I'll talk to you. They couldn't operate though because. That was policy.